Okay, welcome everyone. We're glad you're here. If I haven't met you before, my name is Nancy Allen. I serve as Executive Director for the National Consortium for Health Science Education, and we co-sponsor these Wednesday webinars about twice a month with the Health Science Educators Association, which is our teacher organization. So if you hadn't heard about that, we invite you to go to our website. I'll ask Lissa to give us a wave. Lissa Bartles is the president-elect of that organization, and it's only $45 a year, and you get lots of great resources and networking opportunities and newsletter. So Lissa, if you don't mind, if you'll put that in the chat, the link to the more information about that organization. So with that, we're very pleased to be able to offer professional development for you in a quick, hour session. We do video all of these and archive them on our website. For those of you who are here in person or live, we'll send you a certificate of participation for 1 hour of professional development. We are fortunate today to have Mandy Green with us. She has experience in CTE as a teacher and also an administrator, and she's even taught young people before. She mentioned elementary ed to me. She is going to tell you a little bit more about herself. I'm going to hand her the microphone. She will take questions from you in the chat, and I'll be her Vanna White and help her keep up with those. And there may be some time at the end for questions. So thank you, Mandy. We appreciate you being here. Teachers love hearing from teachers, and we know you have that background as well.
Thanks for having me. First of all, welcome to Power Up Your Health Science Instruction. We're going to talk about 3 comprehension strategies that can help you power up instruction. You're going to need a smartphone, so grab your smartphone if you have one nearby. We're going to scan some QR codes. There'll be some links that you can go to for lots of polls and different interactive activities. That means that this webinar may be unlike any you have ever attended, and that's okay. It relies heavily on audience participation to be successful. So since this is professional development, we are learning with and from each other as well. So grab your smartphone and let's get started right away. If my slides will move, let's see. Oops. I'm also going to turn off my camera. I'm in a hotel room and I want to maximize the bandwidth. All right, let's get started. You can scan that QR code, or the link is actually on the screen. And tell us your definition of comprehension. So if I were to ask you, how do you define comprehension? What would you tell me? When you scan that QR code, it's going to pop up a box from the ed tech tool called Mentimeter. You simply enter your definition and hit submit. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes as a teacher, I would ask my students a question like, have you read that? And they were said, oh, sure, I've read that. But then I would ask them questions about what they had read, and they could not tell me what they read and what they understood from that passage. So let's see how y'all defined comprehension. So this is the box that popped up for you. This is the one that's going to share our answers. So what is comprehension? The ability to understand, understanding of content learned, understanding of information with ability to apply, ability to understand, the processor understand a concept, being able to restate knowledge, being able to understand and apply material learned. Yes, all of that is absolutely correct. The ability to understand a concept and apply it. So you're starting to see some themes, right? So a lot of you are talking about understanding, what people have learned, what the knowledge is, or their comprehension is like the understanding, right? What they've read, what they've shared. So let's keep this going. So my name is Mandy Green. I'm a national content specialist with Goodheart-Willcox. Like Nancy said, I started as a teacher. I've been a high school counselor. I've worked at the district level in CTE and instructional technology. I've also done some research at a university, and my favorite thing to do is talk professional development with teachers. So today we're going to define comprehension, which is what we started to do. We started to build a collective definition of comprehension in that very first activity. Next, we're going to kind of take that definition of comprehension and we're going to look at some higher order comprehension strategies that can really help us power up our instruction in the classroom. So thank you for being health professionals, and thank you for taking your knowledge and expertise into the classroom as well. All right, next, we're going to play a Kahoot game. If you've never done this, it's okay. You're going to scan the QR code using the camera app on your phone, or you can go to www.kahoot.it. Once you're there, you're going to enter that game pin, which is 2110302. Then you can enter your first name or your initials, whatever you need. What's great about this also as an instructor, if a student enters an inappropriate name, yes, I've taught high school, you can actually use the X to X them out and they can re-enter with appropriate name. All right, so I think everyone's had a chance to scan the QR code or go to kahoot.it. We're going to jump back over to our Kahoot game. I'm going to turn the volume up. Let's see if the volume will work. Sometimes it does. So how this works, I'm going to hit start. It's going to ask you a question. You're going to select your answer on your smartphone or the device that you're using. You ready? Let's try it out, y'all. These questions are going to be all about comprehension. Let's see what you know about comprehension. Here we go. First question. What is one way to activate prior knowledge? Read the responses and select the color that matches the color on your device. Looks like we almost got everyone. We have 19 answers. 20, there we go, 20. All right. If you answered brainstorm ideas, that is one way to activate prior knowledge. Exactly. Let's see what's next. Oh, there's our scoreboard. All right, because everyone loves gamification. Comprehension is the understanding and interpretation of what is read. True or false? What do you think? Oh, y'all are quick answering this one. I think we have 20 playing the game of Kahoot. All right, let's see how we did. That is true. Let's see our scoreboard. All right, let's keep going. Third question. The big five of reading comprehension does not include which of the following? This one may be a little trickier since we're not usually traditionally certified teachers or trained teachers in CTE areas. If you're thinking of the big five areas of reading and comprehension, which one of the following is not one of those? The ability to read with fluency. Absolutely. Okay, scoreboard check. Oh, Nurse C is moving up. All right, true or false? Have you used Kahoot with your learners? Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. True or false? Oh, y'all are fast at this one. Let's see, I have one more, I think, way to answer. There we go. Let's check the scoreboard. True. Awesome. So a lot of you have used Kahoot with your students. Here's our final podium. Let's see how we did. Laura's third. Sandy is second. And Nurse D is at the top. Congratulations. Thanks for playing. Let's jump back to our slide. And you're probably saying, Mandy, oops, let me go back. Well, it's not like Zoom is not liking this one screen thing. Sorry about that. You're thinking, Mandy, why did we play a Kahoot game to talk about comprehension? Why did we play it? And then we jump to a slide that says rehearsal at the top. What does all this have in common? Well, this idea of rehearsal is a concept that has actually a 0.73 effect size that accelerates student learning. So this is my educational research coming into play. John Hattie did research on over 200 educational influences. He found that the average effect size is 0.4 for students during the course of a school year. Using this concept of rehearsal, it has an effect size of 0.72, which is almost double that. So using this type of strategy or comprehension strategy in your health science classroom can help students almost double what they learn in a school year. This idea of rehearsal is a mental technique that really helps us remember information. It includes memorizing information through repetition. It can also include repeating information using visual cues such as flashcards. So to do this and to experience this idea of rehearsal, we use Kahoot, which is a free digital game where we kind of rehearsed information that we already knew about comprehension. So in the chat box, share with us how else you might use this concept of rehearsal in your health science classroom. One that really comes to mind quickly for me is always with that medical terminology. So having students use flashcards and other tools to work on those medical terminology key terms is a great way to review that through rehearsal. We're also seeing like the review. So this idea of rehearsal, so having students memorize, have that repetition of information, the simulations, yes, using tools like Quizlet in your classroom, absolutely. Block-it, review game, yes. Both those games are very similar to Kahoot. GimKit, yes. So they're reviewing and rehearsing that information that they already knew to move forward. Also role plays, yes. So anytime they're repeating information, that is this idea of rehearsal that can help improve student learning by almost double during a school year. Let's keep going. Okay, on this next slide, you're going to scan the QR code, or there is a shortened URL on the screen that you can use. It works best on a laptop, but it works just fine on your smart device as well. So when you get there, you're just going to scan the QR code, and then I'll show you the next steps. So you can scan that QR code, or you can go to tinyurl.com/G, and then mind map with capital M's. Once you get there, you're going to click on the word comprehension that will be found in the center. When you click on the word comprehension, as you can see on the screen, highlighted with the red box, there will be a gray plus sign. You're going to click on that gray plus sign. That will open up an empty box that will say type here. The word that you're going to type in that box is a word or phrase that comes to mind when you hear the word comprehension. So when you hear the word comprehension, what other word or phrase comes to mind? Type that word in that box. You can add words from our first activity where we define comprehension, or you can add new ideas that have emerged since that first activity. You can add what your students might think of comprehension. You can add what you think about comprehension. Like I said, this is professional development. We are all learning with and from each other. There are no right or wrong answers. I'm going to click on that, take us to our mind map, and let's see what words or phrases you've added. I think I already have this one open. All right, so here we go. So we have basic comprehension. Oops, it looks like understanding's been added a lot there. Understanding, learning, application, understand, integration, application, demonstration, right? So you can click on any of these words now, use that plus sign, and you can enter your word here. So what themes are you noticing? You're probably noticing some themes here. The word understanding keeps coming to mind. And that's what came to mind in the first activity. But I'm starting to see new terms and words evolve. Review came about in the last activity with the idea of rehearsal. Application. So it's looking like there's more to this comprehension than just understanding and knowledge. We're now looking at reviewing information, application, also that demonstration. We're looking at integration, explain to others. So now our original definition and idea that we each had about comprehension is starting to broaden and expand. So part of this was through our idea of rehearsal. And now you're thinking, okay, Mandy, we're just doing a ton of activities. What are we doing here? So if you've been in any of my sessions before, you know I like to take an idea and start layering on additional concepts. So we're going to jump back to our slide. And we're going to talk about a concept map. So what you just participated in with that mind map or concept map. So why would we want to use a concept map? Let's talk about it from a generic perspective first, and then let's apply it to our health science classrooms. So have you used a mind map before? If you have, share with us in the chat how you've used it before. You know, these concept or mind maps really help students and even us as adult learners demonstrate our content knowledge by creating an illustration using words, pictures, symbols, or connections. You can also think about this as learners kind of arranging new information and connecting it to what they already know. So we know a good educational practice is to activate students' prior knowledge before introducing a new concept. So then they can connect their prior knowledge with that new knowledge. That's exactly what these concepts or mind maps do. If we go back to our research from John Hattie, the rehearsal concept had an effect size of 0.73, which was almost double that for an average school year. The concept map has an effect size of 0.64 when used correctly. And some research also suggests that this strategy really helps take learning to a deeper stage of learning. So let's check out the chat. Share with us if you have used a concept map before and maybe how you've used it in your classroom. Thinking about this from the health science class, I can really see this being used with connecting terms, body systems, when students are learning that in their introduction classes. How else might you use this in your class? Yes, Mary has used it with her A&P lessons. Absolutely. I'm thinking a lot about anatomy and physiology. Yes. They've used it with the human biology class with tissues. Oh, that's a great example. Oops, it's going fast now. Mapping notes and making sense of concepts as a whole. Yes, that's a great way to use them. And that's the great thing about this concept map, right? You can use it with any topic, any concept. It looks like Lissa used it with the qualities of healthcare workers. Yes. Teaching pathophysiology. Absolutely. Laura with body systems. Right. So it works with all of these topics and concepts that we teach in health science. And then we used it with the comprehension one in a shared map. Students can use concept maps individually. They can create them collaboratively. And they can even use different colors, different symbols, different images to make sense of that information. It doesn't just have to be words. So as you can see, the concept map can be used to really help accelerate learning as we bring about new topics. Let's go to the next one. Jigsaw. Have you heard of Jigsaw yet? If you have, drop it in the chat. So we're actually not going to we're not going to demonstrate this one here on the webinar, but this is how you do it. A jigsaw, really, I like to say, let me start over. I like to say, have you ever been in a class and you ask students to read a textbook and they just totally shut down? I've had many of students who don't read on grade level, who don't want to read, and have lots of other things going on in life. This is a great strategy to help those students. This strategy has an effect size of 1.2 on student learning. That is 3 times the average effect size of 0.4. So this strategy has a high effect and impact on student learning. How do you do the jigsaw? Well, you can take your learners or your students and divide them into groups of 3 or 4. Then you take whatever your reading selection is, and you divide that in the same number of groups that you have students. And then I have one group of students read the first section, the second group of students read the second section, and so on and so forth. Students read their sections and become the expert on that section. Then they turn around and teach the class about that area. It can be through a presentation, a slide deck, a poster, whatever works in your classroom. On the screen, you'll kind of see an example. I took our chapter 1 of Introduction to Medical Terminology. I said group 1 of my students is going to read chapter 1, section 1, which is called Structure of a Medical Term. Then I said, okay, group 2 students, you're going to read chapter 1, section 2, how to read a medical term. So I just took the chapter and broke it down into smaller sections. Doing so will help our students because it will reduce reader fatigue. This strategy also has been shown to increase comprehension because our students are not only becoming experts on that topic or that section, they're then having to teach others. So a cool way that I do this in professional development is I'll have instructors read a certain section of a textbook and create an anchor chart. It's just a poster. It can be a non-linguistic representation of what they read. It can include bullet points and keywords about what someone needs to know about that section. Then we put the posters all around the room and we do what's called a gallery walk. So each group stands by their poster and then they rotate one poster clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't matter. And they'll have about 1.5 to 2 minutes to read that poster and learn about it. And they'll continue to rotate until they have read all the posters. And that's one way that group was teaching others about their topic. There's also many variations to this jigsaw process. If you want more, I'm happy to share all of that at the end, and I'll show you a couple of websites where you can find some of those resources already shared out. But this is one strategy that can really increase student learning by 3 times. So in the chat, a few of you have said that you've seen jigsaw or you've used the jigsaw grouping. Share with us how you have used that in your classroom and how your students have responded to this type of strategy that also increases their comprehension without them knowing about it. And Janet, yes, I will be sharing some of that at the end. Absolutely. I'll also be sharing my email. So if you have further questions, I am happy to communicate one-on-one with you to make sure everything works for you. So seeing that we've used some, they've used it in the vital signs review. Most did well, but some didn't do the work to master the content for sharing. In the secondary group, yes, that happens sometimes, absolutely. That's why I like to put my students in smaller groups, like 2 or 3. I found a little bit smaller of a group helps students master the content. It's also a cool idea to have students talk about the content before they create the poster or they teach it. Christina says they've used it in patient care communication with a large article on the end of interview communication strategies. Yes, absolutely. So this is another one of those strategies that you really can use in any type of setting, any type of content, any topic. And we're going to power up our instruction because it allows our students to increase comprehension and student learning by 3 times. Justin's used it exploring different forms of heart diseases. Yes. Have you used it with disease processes? Yep. I'm so glad to hear y'all have used this. That is great. I don't know about y'all, but as a teacher, I got stuck using the same 2 or 3 instructional strategies over and over every year. So it's always nice to have a new one to add to your text, to your toolbox. Okay, so here's what we've done so far. We're going to start kind of wrapping up. We're going to start reflecting. We're going to start asking questions, talking about this kind of information on powering up our instruction. So we took the basic idea of comprehension. We defined it as a group here today. It wasn't a professional definition. It was our definition for our learning purposes today. Then we took that information and we said, okay, here are some strategies that will help us power up our instruction, right? So we looked at the rehearsal strategy that will almost double student learning, repetition. And we showed an example of that using the Kahoot game. Then we layered on top of that the idea of concept maps. You participated in a mind map using the ed tech tool called Mind Master. Then we took this idea of jigsaw and we explained it. Y'all look like seasoned professionals at the jigsaw. And now I want to learn more from you. So you're going to scan the QR code or use the link in the screen called tinyurl.com/capital T, capital S, capital C, and FEB22. This is where you're going to find what's called a triangle, square, circle. We're going to start reflecting on what we've explored today. So you're going to complete the prompt for each of the 3 columns. So in the first column, you're going to share 3 things that you learned today as your triangle. Triangle has 3 points, 3 things you learned. The next column, something you agreed with from today, something that's squared with your thinking. In the last column, share 1 question you still have so that we can circle back to it is the circle. So this is our triangle, square, circle. You can scan the QR code. You can enter that tiny URL. This is a reflective process or strategy that really helps our students and our learners reflect on important pieces of information and content. It allows them to ask questions about anything they don't understand in an anonymous format. So you'll notice that this tool is Padlet. It is anonymous. We know that anonymity increases student engagement. But this is great because this activity can be used at the beginning of a lesson to engage students and activate prior knowledge. It can be used at the middle of a lesson to help students explain what they're learning, or it can be used towards the end of a lesson like today, where we're reflecting and sharing and evaluating what we learned. It really brings about those higher order thinking skills because learners have to analyze kind of what they're doing. They have to evaluate and summarize what they're doing today. You can actually use this analog format using a piece of paper with 3 columns. You could use a poster with 3 different color sticky notes. Or you can use this digital form like Padlet that we're using today, which is an ed tech tool. It is free, but as always check with your district or your organization to make sure that you can use the tool on the network with the students. So with that, let's jump into our Padlet and see some of the responses. All right, so you figured out that you click on the plus sign, and that helps you add to each column. What's cool about this one is at the top, I can see as a facilitator that there are some little ants or insects or aliens, whatever you want to call them, at the top still working. But you can also see responses coming in, and these responses are anonymous. Your name is not attached to them. We know that increases student engagement. Also, this is a great tool because sometimes some learners, and myself included, need an idea to sometimes spark something else in my mind to help me really engage with an activity. So they can read other responses as they're entering their own responses to maybe spark new ideas or concepts they haven't fully thought about or processed yet. So let's review 3 things that we've kind of learned as a group today. So thinking about these reading comprehension strategies that can really help us power up instruction, increase student learning, some things that stuck with you, the jigsaw method, the Mind Master, mind maps, yep. Engage learners with a smartphone. So I did that a lot today because it is a virtual webinar. We used a lot of QR codes. We used our phone to access the QR codes. The importance of a review, the more uses of jigsaw, review methods, yes. They learned that rehearsal has a 0.73 learning effect. That's right. It's almost double because average is 0.4. They learned the concept map has a 0.64 effect size. Jigsaw has a 1.2. Thanks for putting that in there. So Jigsaw is 3 times the average effect size for that strategy. We learned about Mentimeter, Mind Master, Jigsaw, mind maps, making tiny URLs. That's perfect. That wasn't even part of it, but I'm so glad you picked up on that. They learned about jigsaws, the rehearsal components of learning. So we use that Kahoot game to rehearse the repetition. Comprehension affects numbers. Yes, anchor charts. There's some interactive strategies for learning. They're fun. Well, that's good. Thanks for sharing that. These ideas can be used to learn new information or as a review. Absolutely. I didn't realize how much these strategies help with student learning. That's such a valid point. I never realized that either until I started doing research at the University of Oklahoma on educational influences and practices. And I was shocked by some of these. And then when we actually got to go in the classroom and do the observation and the research piece of it, that data piece was crazy about the impact of some of these strategies. Benefits of jigsaw, reflection activities, triangle, square, circle. Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about one thing that squared with your thinking. What's one thing that you agreed with from today? That review is very powerful. Yes. Concept maps can increase learning. Students working in teams always, when I first started teaching, I didn't want my students working together. Throughout my 20+ years in public education, I got to where I wanted everyone working together always, because in the real world, I call the real world, we all work together always. I have a few of my coworkers on this call from Goodheart-Willcox, and we work together all the time. Like working in teams, building that practice and that skill of collaborating with others is so important. Repetitive games do help with retaining information. Yes. Incorporating more technology to class time, not just reviews. Absolutely. So allowing students to become kind of creators of content, answer questions. Yep. It's important to be purposeful in selecting the best comprehension strategies. I agree. I like to get the most bang for my buck, and same thing in teaching. I want those powerful strategies that really help my students and set them up for success. Jigsaw, I'll be definitely using that. Love hearing that. Teaching with a purpose, yes, because we want them to retain information, absolutely. Engaging student learning, letting them take part in the learning, yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see some questions that we have. The website for mind maps, that was called Mind Master. I have a link on the next page. You can see it as well. It does have a free version. It has several paid options. It does have a free version. And so I like to use free. What is the best way to evaluate comprehension in a summative way? So that is super hard. So a lot of things that we talked about today were more of the formative assessments, because we always have those ongoing formative assessments in our classroom. We're constantly checking, looking for feedback from our students. Our students are looking for feedback from us as instructors. So that's a little bit harder. I would say my best suggestion is use these formative assessments so students can build those comprehension strategies, so that when they do take some type of formative assessment or certification exam, they have those skills already built up and they're ready to do that in a more summative way. Is there a website for Jigsaw? There is not, but I'm going to share you with a link in just a second that has lots of that on there. Can you come to Seattle? I would love to go to Seattle for the National Health Science Conference. How to create the websites and QR codes. So briefly, if you'll just go to tinyurl.com, it's a free tool. It has a little box in it where you literally copy the URL at the top of the page and you paste it in that box, and you can create a shortened URL. It's free, it's cheap, it's fast. Is there a better way for students to design their own mind map templates? Yes. So the site we use today can be a little cumbersome. I recognize that. You can actually use Google Drawing if you're a Google-based district. There are other tools out there you can use. Google Drawing is one of my favorite. There's also Lucid Chart if you're Microsoft. That integrates with Microsoft well. So depending on what format your district or school or organization uses, there are some of those there. Is it better for students to design their own map? I already read that. It varies. I usually start an activity more structured, and as students have more practice with building concept maps, then I let them provide more of that structure themselves. Sometimes it's as simple as even starting with a keyword. So like Nancy said at the beginning, I actually started teaching kindergarten. I made my way all the way up as fast as I could. Not really, I loved elementary. But even I taught kindergarten in second grade, and even my second graders, I could put a vocabulary word on the center of a poster and they could write words that went along with that were synonyms or antonyms, whatever I was asking for. So it kind of depends on how your students are kind of trained and how it works in your classroom. So you can set that up and make it work however you want. Where can we generate the QR codes? So today I use TinyURL. I also use bit.ly, which I will put that in the chat right now. It's bit.ly. And that one you can also create short URLs, QR codes, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if it's bit.ly.com. Just try bit.ly. That works too. All right, I'm going to jump into the chat, see what other kind of questions we have coming into the chat real fast. All right, so I'm seeing, okay, systems work. All right, you could consider a concept map if it's summative, just put specific criteria. You could actually, yeah, you're right, Christina. You have a rubric built, that can actually be your summative. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to jump back to my slide deck. It looks like we are all good here. Okay, so I'm going to briefly review everything that we did today to put it all together. So we started out with that tell me everything. How do you define comprehension? We then talked about rehearsal. We used the Kahoot. We talked about the mind map, the concept maps, and we used Mind Master. We used the jigsaw method. We then did the triangle, square, circle activity. And then we use the tools Mentimeter and Padlet. Our research today came from the K20 Learn. So it's the K20 Center at the University of Oklahoma. I put it in the chat, you can Google it. They have over 200 free instructional strategy cards. So these instructional strategies you can sort by what you want students to do. Do you want them to brainstorm, summarize, evaluate, whatever? Or do you want to use it at the beginning of a lesson, at the end of a lesson, and find all these strategies to help students, not just for comprehension, but for just any good instructional practice. We also pulled in research from the Big Five Literacy. That was that Kahoot game. So all those questions about literacy came from the Kahoot game. Then we use John Hattie's research on visible thinking. So making thinking visible. It's a book that he wrote. That's the one that has information about over 200 educational practices and their effect size on teaching and instruction. And that's where we pulled in the research to back our comprehension strategies for today. I also put in the website, our g-w.com/PD webpage. This webpage is Goodheart-Willcox, and we do have, of course, paid PD, but we have tons of free resources. So I don't know if you picked up on it, but I love free resources. We have instructional strategies to go. One of those is the jigsaw method. So there's a short video on a couple of different ways to use that method. You can check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on that gw.com/PD page under instructional strategies to go. We also have an on-demand library. So if you like this webinar, I do several of these for free twice a month for our company. You can go and register and watch them. They're always highly interactive because professional development is really learning with and from each other as well. So you can check those out on that website. Yeah, Laura, I love free work resources too. Anything free, I'll take. I think that's an educator thing, a teacher thing. We will beg, borrow, and steal everything. So with that, I would love to answer any more questions you have. I love talking about educational practices. I love talking about comprehension strategies, some of my favorite things to talk about. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat right now. We will get to them to make sure we get everyone's questions answered. Then if you have any questions that maybe you don't want to ask the whole group, I am more than happy for you to email me. I talk with educators all day long through email, sometimes through my phone, text, whatever works for you. My email address is on the screen. Feel free to email me if you have questions, if you want more information. I'm happy to chat about it. If you're trying out one of the strategies and it's just not jiving well with your students and your class time, I'm also free just to chat with you about ways that maybe you'll be a better fit for your students or your class. More than happy to talk about that as well. So with that, let's see if there's any questions that have come in the chat. Let's see, there was a question about the mind.
Saying that wrong. You said you were going to have a slide that had a website for that
Oh,
What is it called?
yes, it's right here. That one didn't make it. You have it right there. Yep, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
We got it. Yep. That's the one for the concept map. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't see any more questions coming on. I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes. I just want to thank you so much for taking your afternoon to spend with us to talk about some of my favorite strategies and ways that you can power up your health science instruction. If you have any questions, I am super happy to answer them. Always feel free to email me.